Hey everyone, welcome to this week's live stream. I'm Kenny Mullins, and we have John Hockaday on here, uh, and Ralph Bennett is attempting to log on right now, so he will be joining us shortly. So, John, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and Ralph can just miss that part, and he'll hop in a little.
Okay. My name's John Hockaday. I've been tracking for about 9 years in the state of West Virginia now. It's only been legal for four, and we're past that part where it bothers me to say that. It doesn't bother me to say that. But basically, I was using my dog to help recover family and friends. And while Annie was basically hitting her peak, they legalized tracking in West Virginia. So I was able to hit the ground running, and I own Bloodline Trackers, and I put up Longspur on the end because I'm also affiliated with the Longspur Tracking Group, and that's a group that I'm very involved with. I'm the chief operating officer of Longspur Productions, which is a company that we started last year, which handles some of our products such as Bone Shine and the Tracker ID formula that's growing and gaining a lot of momentum, doing some good things for us. With that, I'll add too. I've been very involved with one of the people that developed Tracker ID. It just so happens that it was a product that I found years before we turned it into what it is. It's not the exact same thing, but it was a similar product. So we approached the individual Smokies, who was making the product that I was using to train my dogs for a long time. I brought Annie up on one of Smokey's products, and that is the foundation to Tracker ID now. So my number one dog, my one Annie who taught me tracking, and I say that uh, very willingly because it's the truth. But yeah, I brought her up on that. And so me having that relationship with that product, and then I had talked to Smokey and built a relationship with him, talking about how much I appreciated the product and what I was actually using it for. That was the birth to what is now Tracker ID. So proud of that.
Gotcha.
And it's man, it's proven, man. Anybody that's ever been around Annie, it's there's a reason why Tracker ID exists, and Annie's kind of it. I consider myself willingly to be a hobby tracker, but I'm a very serious tracker. Um, Hobby tracker, why? Because I don't make a living doing it. There's some people that do, or maybe it makes a majority of their money, or maybe it's a very important part of their family's income. For me, I'm a professional locomotive engineer with CSX, and I have been for 25 years. I track on vacation like others might hunt, and I fell in love with tracking. And I'd rather drive out to Missouri and go tracking for a week than go hunting whitetail these days. It's just what I want to do. I love
Right.
it. And I've talked to Kenny a lot about how big I dream. So I'm going to
So
ride this until I'm too old to do it.
there you go. So what
Yeah.
breed of dogs do you have?
Annie's a blue tick. And I call her the Fairmont Mutt, and it's a story I love to tell, and that's one I'll tell right here. But Annie came along because my son Jesse was 12, and he wanted a squirrel dog, and I admittingly had no idea how to start a squirrel dog. All this was new for me. I am a houndsman, and I'm a darn good one now, but I put myself through boot camp because I fell in love with it, and I read every book, and I put my boot leather on the mountain, and I got it done, and I loved it enough, and I knew I was behind the curve because I really didn't get started into it hard till I was in my late 30s. And guys who had grew up in generations of been around hounds for generations, generation after generation, I wanted to be able to step into that circle and have some relevancy. So when I want to do something like that, I'm going to work for it, and that's what I did. And so Annie's a blue tick. Like that all come back because I was talking about how new it was to me. But 9 years ago, or Jesse wanted a squirrel dog. I had said to him at the time because I wasn't really sure I wanted a dog. And I said, well, if you write me a 2-page essay on what it takes to raise a squirrel dog and take care of a dog, then we'll talk. And he did. So he brought me back this essay a few days later, and Christmas wasn't far away. And me and my wife would go to Pittsburgh and do some Christmas shopping. And we did that every year, something we look forward to. So as we were leaving Pittsburgh, we talked about we had off that list, and we had everything but that dog. So I thought I was being slick, and I said, we got a 2-hour ride home. If you can figure out if you can find a puppy from here to home, I'll stop and look at it. Craigslist was a thing. It didn't take long. She showed me a picture of Annie, no papers, and about a 20-minute drive out of the way on the way home. We drove out to Fairmont. I call it was an odd situation, really. It wasn't an outdoor home. We pulled up to a little townhouse in a downtown street, and the couple might have been 20 years old, and they had this beautiful, beautiful coonhound with no papers. And I didn't have what it took to look at a dog and know what a sporting dog should have, feed all this stuff that I know now. But she was pretty. And we took her home.
You know,
I couldn't get her out of there fast enough.
Yeah, a lot of good tracking dogs come from the pound, and they're just mixed breed dogs. And so yeah,
there's some rumors now that people know who Annie is. Yeah, there's a lot of people that'll throw around ideas, and they'll tell, oh, I think this dog's from there or wherever, and I don't know. All I know is she changed my family's trajectory in the outdoor world. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, Ralph just joined us. Ralph,
Hi, Ralph, how are you?
We have John Hockaday on. He was just telling us about us, or about telling us about himself and his dog, or one of his dogs.
Yeah. Well, Annie, the star, I was telling him how she came to be. I call her the Fairmont Mutt. And it was a story that I just told about leaving Pittsburgh after Christmas shopping and stopping by and picking up this blue tick hound with no papers for $450. And now she's Annie, the number one of bloodline of Longspur, with probably just over 130 recoveries as a hobby tracker. And I that's mostly done in the 4 or 5 of legal tracking years. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I have a bloodhound from Kentucky, Lady. I've made recoveries with her. I find her very difficult to read. She was my education in puppy mill and all that, admittingly, learning a lot through all that. Hard to read, big dog. I'll use her, but I won't use her over Annie or Tigger, my new dog, who's a Hanoverian scent hound from Finland. Tigger was born on Christmas. He's not quite 2 years old, so he's in his 1.5-ish. So that would have been Christmas 1.5 years ago. And I found 8 with him before he was 1, and those were honest paid client tracks. And I just finished the ABTA starters test in less than 8 minutes. No recalls, no restarts.
Yeah, Joe Tenney went over that with us last week, and he was definitely impressed.
Yeah. Hey, Kenny,
well, it was impressive, but there's some. For me, I got to get him slowed down. I'm 47.
Right. What was that?
And
Ralph?
let me tell you,
I just wondered if you had shared it.
I have.
If I did, boy,
I'll do that.
All right. He was asking about sharing the post across all the platforms.
Okay. I mean, just because I knew I had the luxury of just blasting off and not having to worry about what I'll be honest, that I took advantage of that. And on the starter test, I think I can get away without. I need to slow down. It was fast. It was, when I'm going by the property sign going, I got permission by that, right? And, I know it. We talked about it. I'm a seasoned tracker. But, I mean, he was just working so fast and hard, and they wasn't going to ask me to pull him off that for a 2-minute sit there and talk about it. We remove it.
If you find out how to slow them down, let me know.
Sure, that's it. Yeah, I saw the sign. We talked about it, and he said, yep, come on. Yeah, that's also something I would like to add maybe to your test, because I find I resolve that issue before I show up. And if I would start your WGT 1, 2, or 3 test and they involve that sign, and I ask you pre to the test, do I have permission by any property lines? And you say yes, then I should be able to fly by that stop sign.
Well, I'll tell you this, it doesn't always happen. So that's why on the next level test, you have to wait.
Okay.
You stop at the property line and wait, because
good ad. I got you.
So many times people say, "Oh yeah, we're good to go," and then you come up to what you clearly know is a property line, and they may try to steer you wrong. Oh yeah, or they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know that was here," or I know I've experienced it. I know Ralph's experienced it.
Well, it's a fantastic element of your test to represent itself to state organizations when it comes to laws too. Right. So I think that's important.
We want to promote not just the tracking, the dog's abilities. We also want to promote the ethical side of things and the handler responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. You're doing a good job.
Appreciate that. It's a work in progress, and we got some more stuff coming out. We've got I've been working on two other tests that will be added in the future, very near future. Actually, 3 other tests that we're pretty excited about. And the big thing is it keeps you active, keeps you working your dogs in the off season. Like I said before, I wasn't the biggest fan of testing in years past, but in the last 5 or 6 years, I've seen more of a value, not so much as a bragging or saying look what I did or look what my dog's achieved. It's more about it keeps you active, putting the time and effort into your dog in the off season.
Mm-hmm. It's a challenging time of year to track as well. I mean, if you truly want to challenge your dog, track when it's dry and warm. I mean, that's the truth. Everybody, I mean, that's an element of tracking. Makes it harder.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And our warm
and here is typical hunting season for us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And it does change for us up here, and we do get spoiled by that a little bit, I could say, because I'll tell you, to suggest that you shouldn't go out and work in this heat is wrong. Early bow season up here is hot.
Yeah.
One of my most difficult exits ever, and I refused to not stay on that track because I knew that deer was dead. One of my most absolute difficult exits was out of a huge cut cornfield, just dust, dry, middle of the day. It took me forever to get out of that thing.
Yeah, well, think about this. South Florida opens in, a week and a half? Maybe 2 weeks. I think private land's like a week and a half, and then public land's 2 weeks.
You guys have a long season.
It's the end of July.
Yeah.
That's less than a week.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I don't track down there. I've been down there before, and I went down there hunting, and when you're sitting in the stand in shorts and a tank top and it's still unbearable, no thanks.
Yeah, I'm good. No, I like West Virginia for that. Yeah. I mean, even tracking, man, that's tough weather. That's hot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and most of that area down there is, Perry Lawrence is on here. He'll tell you most of that area down there is wide open, like almost like I guess you'd say just marsh grass swamps, in the blazing heat.
The challenges are neat. It's like all the different ecosystems offer different challenges. Yeah, it's something we were discussing. Be awesome, like up here, like our WGT3 test. We feel like it could develop into being basically the premier mountain terrain test. We think that could be something sponsored by any track. Like ABTA could sponsor that. Say, that go up there and do that thing. Just like we would suggest people go chat. If there was I guess that would be a wetland test. I mean, it's a different challenge. It's a different kind of thing to do. You get badges for different places. A
lot of people thinks, you guys must have it easy on that flat land. Let me tell you, come down here to this flat land.
No. Everything down there wants to kill you. First of all, I'm just not too awful interested in it. I'm a mountain boy. I like it up here. I like that all that water. No. Everything out there wants to kill you. The sun, the salt, the fish, everything. Even the fish that are
gators,
cute
the
want to kill
snakes.
you. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
We just got bears, and they're afraid of us
We
usually.
got bears too.
Yeah, you got them too. And your bears don't have hair, and that's just not. That's
Oh
ew.
yeah, they do.
No, they're them short-haired, lightly haired bears because they're down there in that heat.
Yeah. You would
They
think
stand up and they look like humans.
they just live in the thickest, nastiest swamps for the most part.
No, I wouldn't know. I ain't ever seen a Florida bear.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures.
Swamp bears.
We run into them or I do. I'm around a place where they bring all the nuisance bears, and if you have, and they have a curfew in the evenings, so it's like half hour after dark. You can't even get to it. You got to be either sitting at the gate or you just got to schedule for the next morning to go track something. And we have bears on the deer quite a bit, so I always worry about the dogs going in.
Yeah.
You know, we're all it's just tough going in knowing there could be a bear there because I've had them on them before. That I don't like that.
You guys do have bear season in Florida or no?
No. We had one. We had
no.
one. It lasted what, 2 days?
Yeah. No kidding.
And they killed double the quota that they wanted to or something like that, and then they canceled it. We're overran with them.
Yeah. I just don't get that part of it. It's like they want to see them. I don't know. I'm tired of trying to figure them politics out. Yeah. But
well,
I mean,
like our Fish and Game Commission.
Here. Yeah.
Well, our Fish and Game Commission put out a flyer one year about the coyotes and how they're good for the ecosystem because they eat cockroaches. Like, come on.
Okay. Yeah, well. Well, I don't know who's believing that one, but it was clear y'all didn't. Yeah.
You just got to turn on CNN. You'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we track bears. We got, it's obviously West Virginia bear season's a big deal. And more people that hunt bears with their dogs, they ain't calling us. But the bear hunters in Maryland, they have a lottery there. Western Maryland is a very, it gets a big draw because it's the mountain part of Maryland. So anybody in the state of Maryland that's drawing bear tags, they might come up this way and they might have one opportunity in their life to kill a bear. Bear tracking in Western Maryland is very important. And I take it seriously, but you don't get as many bears hit in total. And therefore you don't get as many injured. And bear tracking obviously is just a completely different critter. There's no interdigital. It's just stinky bear and blood. And those big moppy hair sides paint every sapling they walk by for miles.
So a lot of people says that they don't have interdigital, but they still give off chemical pheromones out of the pedal gland out of their paws. So same thing with elk. People say they don't have interdigital. They still release chemical pheromones.
I will give you my honest assessment and take it for what it's worth. I feel like my dogs can track a wounded bear is easy, if not easier than deer. It's just a big stinky animal. And once again, when that hair, especially up here, 8 inches long, it's thick, the winter coat's coming on, it's woolly. I mean, I can't even imagine how much blood has to come out of that bear before it even starts coming out of the fur. And every tree he walks by, every step he takes, he drops blood. And my dogs will track that bear from here to 2 states over. And out of the 13 bears that I've tracked, I would say 9 of those were honest, like hit. The other ones I was just trying to get on them. I'd say 7 of those tracks, the hunter called me off the bear after we have gone a distance. And the track, I'm generally in pretty good shape, so to do what we do. And most of the hunters normally have enough and say, I don't want to go no more. Yeah. That's how bear tracks go a lot. Oh, well, I've never recovered a bear. I've tracked them for miles and miles on blood. Never recovered one yet. It'll happen. But I pulled Annie off one bear I think was dead. It was getting blackout. We were in some thick stuff. I mean, thick. And there was no way that dog was going in there after that bear in the black. No way. So that's just the way it goes. He went home.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, we tell everyone. You know, you hear people say, "Oh," especially on these hunting Facebook groups, when someone posts that they shot a deer, they're looking for a dog, and everyone says, "Oh, go look for water." Well, they don't always die in water. The one thing you can bank on is they're trying to get back home.
Yeah. My personal opinion about the water thing, especially again where I'm from, I can't speak about where you're from. You got water everywhere. It's thick everywhere. But
Yeah.
here, where the creeks and the draws are, there's normally a gap in the canopy. That gap in the canopy generally allows more undergrowth. We have more undergrowth near our creeks and our ponds because there's water and there's sunlight, and that's where they're going to hide more so than I think just going there and dying because there's water there. You know, that's my opinion. I just think it's thicker. Yeah.
Yeah, it's where they bed. It's where they feel safe.
Yep. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's usually what I ask the hunters. Where's the nastiest place within the vicinity of the hit site? Because if they haven't pushed them, that's where they're going. That or and that's usually around the water, but it's they love that nasty crap.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you,
I don't think it matters what your injury.
Yeah. This is a personal question. Do you guys transition to like grid searching a property if you have time? If you feel like your dog's just not working the track out, will you go work some of the thickets near where the track ended?
I have in the past, but not generally.
Yeah.
Generally, I mean, if they don't, and if I do that, it's more to please the hunter. I mean, I know what's going to happen. I know the outcome.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just take that extra step to please them, knowing what's going to happen.
Right. Okay. That's generally the reason why we do it as well. But we do suggest our hunters and we encourage them to do it. Time does matter. We're not going to waste a lot of time on a track on a seasoned dog that's told you it's not there. But yeah, we try to get our young guys we want them to work. We want them to work and we want them to work some more. So it's kind of our way of saying, don't leave yet. You know, there's more work to be done there. And we try to ask them to think about where the wind is and work thermals and stuff like that above bedding areas or whatnot. But we definitely try to put some miles on the property for the hunter if we got the time.
Yeah, I used to be that way years ago, and now I'm just I tell them before I even load up and head that way, I say, hey, look, this is everything you're telling me. This is what it's pointing towards. And I'm just honest with them. If I don't think we're gonna recover, I'm say, look, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that we're gonna end up with a recovery. However, I'm going to come. I'm going to put forth the effort, and then when I get there, I explain what my dog's tells are if the deer's not dead. And I'm lucky. My cur dog, Ralph's witnessed it. It's super easy. If the deer's not dead, she knows she can't do anything with it. She's going to come back and jump up on me.
Oh,
she puts her paws on my chest. She'll jump on everyone, and she's like, "All right, we're done."
Okay.
And generally, when I lay that out there up front before we even get started, and then the hunter sees that take place, they're like, "Okay, I'm good."
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like educating the hunters about reading the dog with you.
The other thing, down here, we get so many tracks, you can't please everybody.
No.
You are learning. I mean, I've never done it a lot, but I've been on as many as 11 in one 24-hour period.
Yeah, that's another thing I'd love to talk to you guys about, because we were talking about that up here, and even with Joe Tenney, that's absolutely physically impossible. Logistically impossible as well. No, up here for us, up here.
Yeah.
Not where you guys are at.
But I understand, like, because driving in those mountains. I mean,
yes. One of that's another. I mean, I've tracked. I got a million stories, but I think I might have told Kenny about this story as well. But near home, there's a mountain, Dan's Mountain, and a couple years ago, I started a track up there, and I think I did a whole a Grinch skit about it because it was Christmas-ish and it was beautiful. There was ice hanging out of the trees. It was awesome. And the gentleman called the buck the wizard. And I tracked that deer down that mountain with this guy. Long story, but I drugged the deer through a neighborhood at the bottom of that mountain. And before we committed to coming off that mountain, I turned around and looked at his brother and said, if we go now, we're not coming back up. And he was like, I said, you need to go get a truck and drive around and get to the bottom and pick us up. I think that was a 9-mile drive to go from where I started the track to where I drug the deer out.
Whew.
But I'd only tracked a total of maybe 3.7 to 4.2 miles. And most of that was out the side of the mountain, not down. So from the total to the top to the bottom was maybe 3/4 mile. To go from where I started in the vehicle to pick us up was 8 miles drive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting, you know, I'm seeing a lot of people from up your way saying 3 to 4 tops. You know, that's a typical morning for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Like last year I was running
like,
3. Yeah. Last year I was running 3 to 4 in a real hard week. And I made a mistake. Admittingly, I set my Garmin at the gate to go into this property. And then we drove in. And then the property owner, we got lost. He didn't know where he was. And he said, can you get me back? I said, I can get you back to the gate. That's where I set my Garmin. And that's where we went. And it was a long walk out, but I dehydrated the next day, like medically, like it was my first ride in an ambulance. These mountains got me.
wow.
Yeah.
So
and I'm an old infantryman.
We had a question come in from Coda Stewart, said, where is John at West Virginia?
I'm in just at the mouth of the Eastern Panhandle. Cumberland, Maryland would be the closest large city. I'm 13 miles from there, in Fort Ashby, West Virginia.
Gotcha. And then Coda had another comment earlier, which is kind of typical of a lot of people. He said, before I learned to read my dog and trust him, I used to grid search for hours to try and help them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and like you said, I can see where you're coming from on the younger teams, younger handlers, younger dogs.
I find deer often on grid searches. Now, I don't want that to sound like I'm not tracking straight to my deer, because that's one thing I'm not afraid to do here, is just to be honest about a lot of things. I know what, I guess maybe we could say formal blood tracking looks like. I get it. I know all that. But if my dog is worked 300 yards into a trail and throws his nose in the air, I'm going to tell you right now, in my terrain, I'm going to hang a ribbon on a tree, and me and him are going to go check out what he's telling me there. And why do I do that? I can name one track specifically just from last year alone, where the deer walked me off to the top of this mountain, and then we walked back down to the bottom of the mountain. Now, my dog was tracking step for step the way she was supposed to. It was Annie. My goodness, would have been nice if we could have cut that out and just started. And she'd have took me over there in the holler 500 yards away on the wind on the thermals. I would have took it. If I can save myself a half a mile in these mountains, that might mean the difference of me getting to my last track of the day or not. It can be that tiring, that gruesome, that time consuming at times. And then you start adding in all oh my Lord, autumn olive and laurel, and I mean just outright stuff we got to fight and crawl through. Boulders as big as Volkswagens.
Right.
It's just absolutely brutal sometimes. If I can use my dog and I can effectively put my dog downwind from the area where that guy's telling me he thinks that deer might have went, and I can use Tigger's wind setting abilities, because that's what it is. It is another ability. It's another tool to me. If I can use his nose and hit that wind and go pull that deer out of that bramble in 15 minutes, you bet your sweet butt I want to do it. I can name in no less than 2 or 3 tracks when I first started tracking that I turned into really long tracks because Annie told me off the truck she thought she knew where that deer was, and I made her go track it. And we went off into places where we shouldn't have went into. And then that was on the hunter telling me. That was me learning all that when I was young. Oh, they always go down here, and he saw the deer run that way. And he saw some deer run that way, but it wasn't his deer. But off the truck, Annie told me where the deer was on the wind. If I'd have just followed her, we'd have been done in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yep. Trust your dog.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My WGT1 test I just took the same weekend I took your ABT started test. Sean Butler had laid my test for me, and he got me 40 yards out the ridge, and the wind had shifted from where he put the target during whenever he set it, and the wind was coming straight off my target, straight up the hill, straight to Tigger, and he pulled off the track and looked down the hill and started walking away. And I looked at Sean, and he looked at me, and he said, "What's going on?" I said, and he said, "What's your dog telling you?" I said, "That my deer's down there." And he said, "What are you doing?" And I yelled Tigger, and we put him back on the trail, and he put his nose back on it. And we went and tracked it step for step, and we went to the target, and it was exactly where he knew it was when we started.
Yeah, I'd imagine you guys deal with. I mean, we deal with scent pools here, but I imagine it's on a whole nother level in those mountains.
And it's something we really think we can educate on. And I know that we deal with it on a whole different way. You're exactly right. Yeah. We were talking about a dingle today and how I can challenge people on some of our WGT3 testing, but I call it a dingle, but it's a place where 4 or 5 real steep hollers will come in together. So you got a draw or a place where you would call where water would run. Fingers, that people call them all kind of things. Hollers. But I call them draws. So that'll all come down in one place, and everything else around that is elevated. So if you take a deer that had died maybe 50, 60 yards up on the side of that hill, and in the evening, let's say there's no wind, every thermal in that area is pushing down into that bottom, and it is just suppressing a tremendous amount of scent right down there in that bottom. And that bottom could be 100 yards wide. That bottom could be 80 yards wide or 40 yards wide. I'm going to tell you, man, your dog could just be smack dab on his track. But I'm telling you, when you smell a dead animal that strong and your handler can smell it and the hunter can smell it, it's amazing how long sometimes it can take you to get out of that.
Well, we were administering
we
were administering a test in Clearfield, and I don't know if she's on here, Lauren. She was running her test. Well, when I laid the line, I walked. It was towards the bottom of the hill, along the edge of a field, and her dog was trailing. It was about 15, 20 yards uphill, and someone was with me that they knew where I laid the line, and they're sitting there looking. They're like, "Well, why is that dog trailing like that?" Well, we're getting towards the middle of the day. All those thermals are rising, and it's coming up this hillside. So it's not. It wasn't a callback anyways, but the dog was trailing. And it went right to the end, and you could see it as soon as that hill started tapering. That dog tapered right down into where the trail actually was, and it was because of the thermals.
Yeah. And understanding all that's important, because you may not even you have to understand sometimes it is thermals instead of wind. Like what I mean is, like if it's the right time of day and that sun's just coming up and you can feel wind to your back, but nothing else is happening above you at the treetops where it's flat, those are all thermals you're feeling. And I will use the thermals as a professional tracker where I track as a tool for myself. In other words, the hunter tells me I hit the deer here, it ran out the side of this trail, and we grid searched and we did all this. When he's walking me in to the hit location, if my area that I'm walking, maybe he's walking me out the ridgetop, I'm already tracking. He's walking me out the ridgetop to go to the hit location to his tree stand, and I'm watching my dog's reaction to all these thermals creeping up over these hills. I'm watching all that happen while we're walking in and talking about it. And if my dog indicates in there somewhere, that might just be a mental note for me right there, but it's important. You know what I mean? But I know what the wind's doing. I know where it's moving.
Right. Vicky Church had a question for you, John. Well, actually more of a statement. She says, I hope you all come to the PA seminar on 8/24 in Bird in Hand, Pennsylvania. And I know you said you were going to try to be there, but just wanted to throw that out there for her since she made that comment.
Absolutely. Good promo. I'd love to be there. I'm going to try to be there.
Yeah, it'd be good. And, speaking of that, we've been working, Ralph and I has been working a lot with the folks in PA, and there's been some ups and downs, and, a lot of phone calls, a lot of lot of firefighting, and we have made some great strides. You know, PA is it's fairly young in the tracking scene. Not as young as West Virginia in the tracking scene as far as legalities. But you know that we're finally starting to see a lot of unity in the state. It got rocky there for a little bit, and you know, I'm going to give a shout out to Vicky Church there, because Vicky, you know, she came to Georgia in, when was that, Ralph? February?
Yep.
Yeah, she came to Georgia, and she came to our event there, and she said, "We need some help in my state." She said, I want to have what you guys have. I want to have the unity. I want everyone working together. I want to promote tracking. I want to, you know, provide a better service to the hunting community. And we went there. You know, we had an event. We got people together. We did some educating. We did some testing. You know, hung out, had a good time. And when we left there, immediately Ralph and I called one another. We're like, we got to go back. You know, it's we got to. There was a big lack of. I guess you'd say, education. Really, I mean, I'm just going to put it like it is. I'm not putting anyone down in any way. Don't get me wrong. There just hasn't been any formal education or even kind of team building, mentoring there. And you know, there was one group that started out. You know, they were doing the right thing. Things were going right, and then it just developed into something different. And then another group. There was another group involved. Well, they just merged, and we are very excited about that. We're seeing people come together. And John, you were actually you were part of that, and you know, I was obviously, you know, that I was on a call with you and Vicky, and seeing that relationship. I guess you'd say mend a relationship that, although you hadn't spoken before, there was just some what's the words I'm looking for? Assumptions.
Never know with you.
Yeah, there was some assumptions there and some misunderstandings just from outside talk, and you know, I appreciate you taking that time, and Vicky, and you know, we're headed in the right direction up there.
Sure.
I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking to Pennsylvania. I think highly of the state of Pennsylvania and track very proudly for the Bedford Valley, all the way anywhere really. The Bedford Valley is where I built my reputation. You get into a couple good families up there and farms, and the word spreads. And that area respects work ethic and honesty. And everything that I do up there is respected. When I get on a property, there's no gray area. There's no what's what. If my dog ain't working the way I want it to work, I'll tell them it ain't, and I'll give them some money back. You know,
right?
I've earned the respect of a lot of people in Pennsylvania, Western Maryland, my home state, and I've trekked for a few people out in Ohio who've seen the magic too. So Pennsylvania,
and that's the thing, really all
sitting
we have
on
is
the
our
outside
reputation.
looking in, you're right. It was a mess.
Yeah.
And I hope it gets better.
Oh yeah.
But I did get to sit on the outside looking in.
Right.
Yeah. You know, something I can't put my thumb on in the tracking world, which is interesting to me, is I don't understand the differences. To me, seem like they shouldn't be there at all. In other words, the cream's going to rise to the top. The people that are putting in the work, running the dogs, working all summer long, passing the ABTAs, the UBTs, and the WGTs, and wearing the jewelry and putting the work in, they're going to be the best. And that's the way that'll be. And it doesn't matter what list you're on. It's not going to matter. None of that'll matter. People are going to find the guys that know how to do what they're doing. And that's a good thing. And hopefully we're all part of a network to where if one of us is busy, they can help to get some help.
Yeah. And that's what we've been helping with there, is to build that network.
Right.
not us build it, but them build it, but us offering, our years of experience of doing this.
Yeah.
And because it was for lack of a better term, every man for themselves, really.
Yeah.
And any time that you can build a network and work together, and everyone's going to come out ahead.
I can't track them all. Vicky can't track them all.
No.
Seth Gordon can't track them all, who's a powerful tracker up in Johnstown, Longspur guy. I didn't say Johnstown. Somewhere out there. He yells at me about that all the time. It's I'll get it right one day, Seth.
Well, it's like Ralph and I. Ralph, there's how many trackers between you and I? Probably
a lot of you.
A lot.
Yeah.
And
really?
None of us can cover them all. I mean,
the volume you guys are tracking is crazy to me.
Oh yeah, we'll track over 200 deer a year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you have a long season.
Yeah. So I typically, or Ralph and I both typically start tracking, the second weekend of September through, on average, the second weekend in January, third weekend in January sometimes.
Well, I have nearly about the same amount of time to track.
Yeah, we're just, especially where I'm at, I'm in an area that is mostly timberland, that is all leased out for hunting. So right here within an hour of my house, there's over 600 acres, 560,000 acres that one landowner owns and leases out for hunting. Not counting all the other private lands, plus 750,000 of public land. And people doesn't think about Florida like that. And there's a lot of timberland over where Ralph is as well.
So would it be safe to suggest that there's a whole lot of state hunters that come there and have to hunt there? Is that what's going on because it's such a big piece?
Yeah, we get a lot of people. So the hunting land in South Florida it's sky high. It costs so much, and to join a lease there, you're looking at $10,000 a year.
I've got some friends down there, and they lose leases as fast as they find them to real estate.
Oh, that too.
Well, that's the other, is the land's running out because of that, but what's left is a high priced, or I don't know, just management areas.
Man, so that seems like a tough way to go. I like having all this public land around me.
And there is a lot of public land. Yeah, like Mike just said, 20,000 a year south of Orlando, and that's for a key to a hunting club.
Ooh, Lordy.
For one membership.
20,000 a year per year.
20,000 per year.
Wow. I don't know.
I would never pay that myself. I mean, so a lot of people comes to my area because the lease memberships are cheaper. There's a lot of land. There is a lot of game. In public land, especially like where Perry Lawrence is, Perry just says, I have a couple WMA that are packed with hunters. And when he says a couple, every one of them around him is slam packed. It's just super dangerous. It's insane how many people are there. You get up here where we're at, and the public land is not as crowded because there's so much private land and cheaper leases. But yeah, it's so just within an hour of me, I think there's 11 or 12 trackers that all of them really. I know of at least 9 that tailgate 70 to 100 deer every year. Within an hour of me.
I don't know. That's incredible to me.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, but here's the thing too. These are all deer that nobody can find.
The majority of them, yeah.
But there are some, and I'm not suggesting that you're getting tracks where the deer went 60 yards. What I'm saying is do you get a lot of calls where the hunters simply are choosing not to track their deer and electing to use you guys first, which is common, especially on lease?
And that is the common misconception. I don't now. We do have Ralph's got a buddy over there that it. They don't even get out of the tree stand. No,
Hey, these outfitters out in Ohio and stuff now build in tracker fees. You're just paying $500-600 more. It's added to your bill. You don't even know you're doing it. And the best tracker his buddies around, he's always on lockdown, and you're going to tip that guy too. But yeah,
we don't get
them
many.
Guys, go ahead.
We don't get many cakewalk tracks.
Yeah, I don't know if they're cakewalk tracks, but they're on call, and their success rate is so important. And you take a state like Ohio, where this property owner, this outfitter, might be making his livelihood on it. It's important. He wants success rate to be exactly what it's supposed to be. He'll ask that hunter. He'll tell that hunter, "Hey, if you pull the trigger, call me. Let me know what's going on." He'll ask him right there, "Did you see the deer fall?" "No, I didn't see it fall. Okay. Where'd you hit it at?" "Well, I'm pretty sure." Well, that conversation's over. Tracker's coming. You know what I mean? It's like, that's it. All right. Okay. Come on out. Meet me there where I dropped you off. Then they'll leave.
Ralph's got a buddy that has his hunters trained like that. Jason Bell, I don't know if he's on here or not.
Good job, Ralph. Hey, who gets him whenever you're gone?
That's a good buddy.
Hey, that's right. Hey, you got to leave them to people one day, so then people better be nice to you.
Hey, the thing is, it's another tracker. The other tracker has his people trained.
Yeah. Well, we just don't have hunting around here that creates that much money, so we're not going to get a lot of outfitting these kind of stuff.
Our young dogs, that is awesome for them.
There we go. Yes, sir. Yeah. We're getting ready to shoot permits up here. You guys, I don't know if that's something your farmers down there shoot deer. We lost Kenny.
They can do it pretty much year round if they get the permit. There's no certain time they can do it. You get rid of them.
Yeah, so they'll shoot permits up here next couple of weeks, and that's where I'll do a lot of collecting. I do take hooves from that, but I separate them. I know they're not wounded hooves, but I use them for maybe targets, or maybe I'll use them for maybe I ain't got no practice in or tracks in for a couple weeks. Happens, and maybe I'll just grab one or two of them, and we'll use them for toys. I'll throw them in the weeds and stuff just to keep it around them. But them unwounded hooves, I still keep them, but I don't use them for everything, hardly at all. But keep them. Blood, liver.
We got a few questions come in. John Sturdivant, getting many signed up for the Iowa event. Right now, John, you are the only one signed up. And Mike says, the terrain is very tough down here. A lot of thick vegetation, swamp, and need a waist deep water. And it's that way where I'm at. And I know a lot of areas where Ralph is the same way. Then we got a question in from Brian. Says, when training, how often should we train off thermals instead of following a mock set track?
We don't want to mislead you, gentlemen. Please don't let me do that to you. You want me to take that, Kenny? Because I got some responsibility there.
well, I'm going to say this. It's not so much training off thermals. I mean, you just lay the line, and the conditions are what the conditions are.
Yes.
If you lay the tracks in the morning and everything's rising, you may be off, especially if you're on a hill. You may trail uphill a little, and then you lay it in the evening. Things are dropping.
I'll offer him this. First of all, don't think for 1 second that one's as important as the other. No way. Your dog needs to be able to track. Your dog needs to be able to ignore the wind if you want him to. And just like I pulled Tigger off that WGT1 started track, he was going straight down the hill. I had to use my voice commands, and I had to get him turned around while he was on lead. He wanted me to go. I had to get stern with the lead. I had to tell him to get back on the track, and that's exactly what we did. And we went back to work, and we tracked the track to the target. If you don't have the ability to do that, first of all, you're not a tracker. There. Now, do I take it a big step forward, and I learned, and I've taught myself how important thermals are in these mountains, and I work at that? Yes. Do not think you should be doing that before you lay the foundation of your tracking efforts, and that is be on trail.
Yeah, you just
Okay.
lay the track, and it is what it is. You go out there and track it.
Yeah, when dog starts tracking for you and doing everything right, if you think that you're slick enough to where you want to start including some thermal training, we can talk about that. When I do thermal training, I would not have a trail to my target. I just don't. I'll take something that stinks and I'll place it out in the woods and I'll wait for the thermals or the wind to do what I want it to do. I'll work downwind from that and I'll see how close I can get my dog to that. Or more importantly, what I'm really doing is I want to see him indicate. I want to read his behavior, which is normally putting their nose way up in the air. And Annie will even get up on a stump or the highest thing she can get on. And she'll get her nose way up in the air. She just told me 99% of the time that she's found my deer or a deer. And when she shows me that, I'll take a ribbon and I'll hang it on the tree and I'll check the wind. And I may choose to continue my track if Annie's willing to put her nose back on the ground or Tigger. And that's what I want them to do. But if they are so driven that they feel like it's that distracting to where they're basically saying that's over there, the dead animal I'm looking for is over there, I'm going to go get it. If I'm wrong or she's wrong, I'll reset myself on the same ribbon that I hung whenever she indicated. That's how I work.
Yeah, I'm just personally not a fan of teaching a dog to win. I mean, there's some natural ability there. I'm personally, right. I want a dog to take the track and stick with the track. And if their natural abilities come out, when we're in the woods and they cut corners, I'm fine with that. It's just not something that I'm going to train, because and they need to be track for track.
Yeah. And I see that in the importance in that, but for me in the terrain that I work in, I think that having the ability to do it is just as important. For me, it is. It saves me a lot of calories. A lot. But it'll cost you on some formal testing. There's the truth too.
Well, it'll also cost you when things get tough, and you need that dog to stick true to that line, and it's catching a scent of something every now and then, and it keeps wanting to check out. Well, when it gets tough, you need that nose in the ground. You need that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, I mean, I think I do know what you're saying, and I've been there. I mean, I found dead deer that weren't the deer I was tracking. I mean, it took me 30 minutes, and then I got to go back and find the deer I was tracking. So, yeah, there's some good with the bad.
Yeah, then you got to try to reset your dog and say, hey, that's not the prize. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually, the most dead deer I've ever found on a track that wasn't the deer I was tracking was 2. And the deer that I was actually tracking, I got up on an island in Wills Creek over in Pennsylvania. And oh man, that didn't hurt. I watched that wounded deer walk away, and we got back on it in some serious bear country and private land. And the fellow was with us, but it wasn't panning out. I don't think that deer ever did die, or at least not anytime soon. Yeah.
See, I like what Jeremy says here. He says, I don't train for it, but love it when it happens. And that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, and I have multiple breeds for different reasons, and some of the breeds, they're going to win a little more than some of the other breeds that are, and I have a lot of dogs because we do go on so many tracks. You can burn a dog up, and you got to sit one out or sit a couple of them out and break out a couple more later on in the day when you're running 10, 15 tracks in a day. I mean, that's a lot on a dog.
Man, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, and they have to be relatively close together.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Lord, I think I stack tracks. I'm driving. I probably got 3 or 4 hours of driving time in that day to minimum.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we have that. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's but you can see now like
days. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is you see now why we say we don't grid search a lot. We've learned to get in there, get the job done, get out. I don't tend to try to please the hunter as much anymore. If they're not satisfied, I offer to call someone else.
We're not leaving tracks on the table doing that. That's just what's available to us per day.
No, I understand.
Yeah, if I have 3 or 4 tracks, that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is because of the volume of calls that we have, we can't do that. But you know
Right.
what? We may call someone else that may not have the calls, or a newer tracker. If the hunter's not satisfied, I'll call another tracker and say, hey, you got anything going on? This is what happened.
That's good.
And I'm honest with them. I say, look, and I've called Ralph. We shared this a couple times. I've called Ralph saying, Ralph, we're not going to get this deer. I know that, but this is one of those tracks where we need to make a presence. And one of them, we showed up with 1, 2, 3, 5 trackers.
Yeah,
I know how many
stuff.
dogs.
Yeah,
you know,
I like
but
that.
it was because of the importance of the track and
yeah,
and who it
quality
was,
animal. Yeah, the profile. I got you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And but other times, you know, I've called in other trackers and said, and I'm honest with them. Hey, you're probably not going to find this deer, you know, but you know the guy wants a second opinion. So I've already got a bunch more lined up. Are you willing to do it? And they'll say yes or no, or if not, I'm sorry, man. You know, it is what it is. This is, and I've learned to just do that. I don't. So when I first started out, I'd spend, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours on a track. Now, I mean, it's maybe an hour a track.
Our general, we say 2 hours. That's what we suggest to our guys. If you ain't resolved it or developed it heavily by then, it's time to get out of there or work on it. It's time to go.
Don't get me wrong. I do spend some time on some tracks, but if the dog's telling me, hey, it ain't going to happen, and I don't waste any time, I'm moving on.
When we say we're on 10 or 11 tracks, you know, that's not every day by no means, but that's the peak. I think the peak of the rut down here, as far as it is a lot of activity going on. And
when is your peak of the rut? What time of year?
Depends on what part of the state.
Yeah,
that's why they have all them different zones and regions.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's
okay.
It's all road related.
You can, and with us tracking, you can watch the rut where it's going, because those guys will be busy, and it just moves up the state and then turns and goes west. So it's, you can dang sure watch it. You know, in those days, that's everybody doing them. You call your buddy to track, he's slammed. You call the next guy, they're slammed. And it's just around, you know, around the area you're in, it's just balls to the wall, all you can do. And that's turning stuff down. That ain't even taking them all. But that ain't every day. But luckily, like me, I get to do so many, because during the week, there ain't a whole lot of trackers that can take off work. So I get to.
Do you think your terrain has a lot to do, or even maybe the terrain's not the word, ecosystem? Like the grass, is the grass crazy high? I mean, when your deer are out of sight, is it just very hard to find them?
It's super thick in my area. Super thick.
And if there's water, they can't follow the blood. So we get into some, I mean, it's nasty. I mean, it's some places that, you know, and there's some places hunters, they ain't going in there to just search for something. If they go in, they know, they want to know there's a reason they're getting into this place.
Yeah.
I shared a story with someone that came and picked up a dog the other day. I said, you know, we tracked one. This was about 3 years ago, and the dogs found the deer, and it was 40 yards away inside this swamp head.
Wow.
And it was a tie-dye thicket. And I told the guy, I said, your deer's there. It's dead. It's now dead. Got the dogs out, and he went to the camp to get a chainsaw, and this was 40 yards away. And 45 minutes later, he calls me and said, I'm done. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. It's too hot. I've overdone it. Because I asked him for a picture when he got to it, and 45 minutes to go 40 yards and could not get to his deer.
Wow. Yeah. No, I wouldn't know. Was he in the mangroves?
No, you sure aren't cutting mangroves.
I've been in some of those hurricane blowdowns can get rough too, to where it'd take you 15 minutes to go, 20, 30 yards. It's just nothing. Now you just can't hardly get to it. You know,
like blow down pines, like just on top of each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Stuff stuff you can't crawl over. You got to either go around it or under them, and it gets rough.
And vines belly crawling in water, and it's it's not fun.
No,
Brian,
snakes and bugs.
Brian commented again. He said, I had set some lines below in the evening, ran them in the AM, and noticed how they picked up the thermals, nose up, and body change. It is interesting that I have recently been seeing this behavior, and you happen to be discussing the same circumstances. And we try to cover as much as we can. And
well, in a way, he brought up something that was absolutely important and all by accident, and probably a great talking point. So one of the reasons you should understand thermals is exactly what he suggested, and laying tests for trackers, which I'll be doing quite a bit here this month. I have to think about what those thermals are going to be doing in the morning. And for me to set somebody up to where those thermals are going to beat them real bad, that's I don't want to do that. I don't want them fighting that element right off the top, especially in a starter test. That don't mean I won't mess with somebody in a more advanced test. I might beat them to death with thermals. You see what I'm saying? I might just beat them to death with thermals and see if their dog will track. So laying mock tests for yourself as a new tracker, if you keep beating yourself up with thermals, you're going to make things harder on yourself. Yeah.
And it's going to teach a dog not to track as hard, not as thorough on the actual track.
A young dog laying mock tracks with a young dog to where he's fighting thermals all the time. You'd be better off to make sure you're just laying tracks where you're not going to fight that. So know what your thermals are doing in the morning and evening and such, and when you're tracking and where you put the line. Yeah. That would be the point.
Yeah. And let's see.
There was one in there. Somebody asked. Hang on. That was Kelly York.
Yeah, I saw it. That's where I was going back to, trying to find it. Oh, there it is. So do you guys it's messing up on me. I can't.
It says, do you guys use multiple dogs on a track or just one dog at a time?
Who wants to go first?
I can say that. I use minimum of 2 dogs. I'll every once in a while just use one if I know it's a leg shot, or if we've got bone. I got one dog that'll silent bay, and she'll go in there and do something that most dogs won't. We can usually get a dispatch off on it. But
off lead, correct?
Typically, yes, off.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the important part of the conversation.
If it's off lead, I'm running 2. If it's on lead, I'm running 1.
There we go. Yeah. I don't know if you could. I know I don't think anybody could physically. I know it's impossible to run two dogs on lead where I track. Impossible.
So I tried it once. I'll never try it again.
It's impossible. No, can't be done. Yeah, can't be done. And anybody that says they're doing it's not telling the truth. Yeah, whether they're Christian or not.
I will say this: there are. So I've experienced it on all sides, as whether one dog is better than 2 or 2 dogs or 3 dogs, or I found that I really don't need more than 2 dogs.
Yeah, 2.
I think 2 is in most cases is better than 1.
Yep.
I think
my opinion, how do I look at it? And it is an opinion, and I don't want nobody yelling at me, but I think 2 dogs is off lead tracking, 3 dogs is deer hunting with dogs. I don't want to make that. I know that would be controversial to somebody, but the 2 dogs are competing with each other, and that's the element you're looking for. So once you start working those 2 dogs to gain that element, you're where you need to be. 3's a little bit of an overkill. You don't need it. You already got dogs competing and working together in a base situation and such. So I think it's perfect for off lead. 2's a good number.
Well, not just the competing factor, but some days one dog might struggle with something and the other will pick it up. I know Ralph and I sees it a lot. What may be our best dog all of a sudden lost it or overshot something, which they typically don't do, and that young dog will come along and just not even miss it, or vice versa.
And your dogs probably have strengths that maybe the other dog doesn't have. I'm just assuming, maybe knowing dogs.
Yeah,
one dog's better at something than the other.
it depends on the day, just like people. They'll have a bad day just like people, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love
and
two. I wouldn't want to do off lead with just one dog because they'll pick up for each other. And
Yeah.
the only times, and we talked about this last time, I'll pull a dog off a track when a situation changes, or if something, like I said, if we see bone, I got one, we'll pull a whole pack off and just go with one because we know the outcome's probably better because of the attributes of that dog. And also, if we get in a bay situation, I think it's better to bay with one dog than two. And I'm running the little dogs, but a deer will put up with one dog way more than he'll put up with two.
That makes sense.
And I'll take a solid bay dog over a catch dog every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot to that question, and I forget who asked the question.
Kelly York.
Yeah. So off lead would be two. On lead, I think we're saying obviously one. And where I'm at, one's all you can handle on lead. So
how many dogs can y'all put on a track?
To be continued. Well, okay, so basically
Legally.
Well, it's plain and simple. The state says we have to be on lead. Okay.
No, I knew that, but I'm saying,
okay, well, we're going to get there. The state has no restrictions on how many dogs you can have on lead. However, we do have some folks that are suggesting that they're working 2 dogs or more on lead. And we're saying from the rooftop or the mountaintop, screaming as loud as we can, no, you can't. It's impossible. You cannot do it. Now, why do we care? I care because they're getting an advantage over me because I'm following the law and they're not. So it needs addressed. And I'm assuming hopefully it will be addressed. But if it's not addressed, well, you know, I'm not going to lose any tracks over it.
I wasn't really talking about what can one person is like. I track with a bunch of people, and me and a buddy track a lot together. So he could have a dog and I could have a dog on lead. Yeah, I'm not going to pull 2 dogs on the lead myself. Ain't no way. Ain't happening.
There you go. Yeah. So no, we can have as many people on site as we want.
I'm curious if y'all are able to do that. And you answered it, but
I can take more than one dog on a track, and I can take. We've taken more than one handler and with dogs together.
There are some states that you only one dog per track.
Per track, not per handler.
Correct.
Yeah, and there's some 1 or 2 per track. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're concerned about the pack hunting.
That's why I asked it that way.
Okay. Yeah. We're that not that it. I think that the state's going to have to address it. I guess I don't know. I don't think you can continue to allow people like me to pay for an outfitter license if other people aren't following the laws and you are. It's going to become a problem.
Yeah,
for obvious reasons.
And what we tell everyone, and you know this, just maintain the course, keep doing what you're doing, and they're going to weed themselves out. We got a call from a game officer, and it wasn't even a call. I was sitting down with this game officer, and he was telling me the story about there was he was working an area, and they came up on some guys and asked what they were doing, and they were heading to track a deer, and there was 3 or 4 trucks of them, and he knew what was up. So they literally kept repacking dogs to this deer, and till they ran it down enough that the pack of dogs could catch it. Well, they ended up being prosecuted, or charged and prosecuted. The first thing he did was went to our state list and looked for their names, and they weren't there. And it was some people that we had removed years ago. And so he told me, and I believe he told, I don't know if he told you this, Ralph, but he told me, he said, look, we know that you guys run a tight ship, and we appreciate that, and that they're more willing to work with us because of that.
Yeah.
And again today, I was talking to this same individual over a different topic, and he brought that up again.
Yeah.
And so I mean, they know who's following the law and who's not. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of time before they get.
And I wear it on my sleeve. Like I said, I was tracking before it was technically illegal. I was not accepting money, and I was not tracking statewide for everybody. I was finding deer for friends and family. That was long enough ago. I don't have to worry about that. But I read and understood tracking. So how do you think I was tracking before tracking was legal? I was tracking off lead. I mean, the results are better. Once again, I was learning the trade without it technically being legal. But when tracking became legal, it was time to be a professional and do it the way the state suggested I do it by law. So I taught myself how to go on lead.
Yep.
Right.
And then that was it. That's how it's done now. Yeah. Until it changes, that's how it's done. I might train one way or the other, but it's on my property and it ain't running deer. But and I'm ready to do it when I can do it. But I track on lead, and I made that switch when it was time. But off lead tracking's good stuff. I wish they would transition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out a way to get into that, but it takes time.
Yeah.
I've had a glitch and I can't see the comments, Ralph. So if you see any comments pop up, this happens every now and then with this program. It doesn't happen often, but for some reason I had a glitch.
Hang on. Okay, I got one from Blake Schneier. Says, what is something you all know now that you wish you knew when you started? New tracker and always looking for advice.
Trust the dog.
Yeah, that's definitely
number one.
That's the easy one, Kenny.
That's number one.
That's that story about jumping off the truck and costing me 45 minutes. That's the one they're talking about.
Yeah, don't believe everything 100% that the hunter tells you, because they're wrong sometimes. It not intentional, but they're wrong. So you got to trust your dog if it's telling you one thing and your hunter's telling you another, trust your dog, not the hunter.
Right.
Yeah. One thing. Let me think on that, because you guys covered two good ones.
I'll
that was trust the dog and don't trust the hunter.
I've got another one I'll share. And
I've had guys actually mad at me for not following them. I'm like, dude, I'm following that dog. There ain't no way.
Yeah, it normally don't take long, does it? Yeah, that story gets told quite often about those tracks that cost you time.
Especially when you show them a drop of blood and they get that old dumb look on their face.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is kind of what we talked about earlier. Don't be afraid to tell a hunter how it is. I mean, that's the biggest. Yeah. That's a big thing with new people starting out.
That's where the honesty line came in from earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's definitely easier once you get. Say if your dog's well known or something, and everybody they'll trust that, and that's just time. That's
a great point, Ralph. Yeah.
But
when you have when you can bring your proven dog to the field and you yourself, you have the confidence. People around here a lot of time will talk about me being cocky. Well, don't mistake confidence for being cocky. And to be quite honest with you, I want a confident tracker. I want a confident tracker. I don't want somebody telling me all the reasons they're not going to find my deer.
Right.
It was funny that one night that Kenny was talking about where we had 5 trackers on it, and me and Kenny told him first what was going to happen, and I turned around and told him exactly what my dog was fixing to do, because based on what Kenny was saying, I trusted his dog, and I come in backing him up and told him this is going to happen, and she's going to push that deer. She's going to find it. And I said, she's not going to quit just because the pheromone quit. If there's anything that she can smell, she's going to push it and get up on that deer. Sure enough, everything. I mean, you couldn't have wrote a script any better. And when we were done, he was tickled to death. and find everything. So, but once again, that takes time and a lot of tracks to get your dog to where you can trust that dog that it's going to do what you tell them every time she comes out of the box.
Yep.
And it's just easy, but you got to that's to me the goal, getting your dogs to where you can do that with people, because it gets pretty easy after that.
Yes, sir.
And if you can lay down that, script before you start based on what you're seeing, and then it happens, it's pretty easy.
It's mind blowing. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And there you go. Holy crap. And then you
Yes,
jump
sir.
here. They know it's dead, and you find out it's alive.
Yep.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I found most of the time, now looking back, all the time I spent, they still didn't believe in the end. Those types of people, you're never going to convince them until they see it on camera. So that's what I mean by spending all that unnecessary time. Probably, if I had to give one solid piece of advice, and it wouldn't be trust your dog, it wouldn't be, what I said a minute ago. The biggest thing, most helpful thing you can do is find yourself a mentor, find a tracking buddy, join a state tracking group, and build that network, and have someone that you can work with. That is the number one key thing.
Find a gentleman and find a woodsman. I think the most shocking thing for me entering the tracking world, I don't know if that was part of this question or one from earlier, but it was how muddy it was. I mean, I explain it to people like, honestly, I felt like I was watching Fox or CNN. Like, it felt like politics. And I was like, no, you don't get to do this with something I love, something so organic, something where none of that belongs and it doesn't even make sense. If my work ethic can't help me go find deer for people, and my honesty and my hard work again, but then I don't want to play. But it was a little off-putting. But then I put my foot down and said, you know what? It don't have to be this way. And me and Sean met each other, and we built our gentlemen's club, the Longspur Tracking Group.
Right.
And we go out and we find a lot of deer, and we help each other. Yeah, that was shocking coming into that. That like I said, it was swampy. That's the way it was. It was. It was.
Yeah, I've been doing this long enough. I remember back when there was 5-6 trackers in the whole state, and it's grown into, I don't even know how many trackers we have now, a couple hundred.
Yeah. I think we're moving at light speed to the point to where we're going to have hunters and trackers. I can see that happening. I mean, I do believe that. I mean, I think most of your trackers, if not all of them, will start out and should be woodsmen and hunters first.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've been telling the Pennsylvania group, because some of them didn't understand. They're like, well, maybe we shouldn't start this group because we don't have enough trackers. And then it was like, oh, there's not enough tracks to go around. And we've heard it all. Well, first off, there's trackers out there that you don't even know about, and they don't know about you. That's the first thing. And we've seen that since we started helping them. Now there's people requesting to be a tracker that no one's heard of, and yet they're producing all these pictures of deer that they've recovered. The other side of it is you are going to have hunters become trackers that you track for. We talked about that the other night, John.
Oh, sure.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is you're worried about them taking your tracks. Quit worrying about that, because the more trackers there are, the more exposure is, the more words getting out, the more tracks come in.
Yeah. There's always going to be somebody that's playing at a premium level for a certain period of time. They're going to last this. When Annie works her way out of her prime, I'm working hard to get Tigger to where I trust him as much as Annie. That's not going to happen overnight. That's not going to happen in a year and a half. That's who I am. Maybe that's an opinion again. But when I can go out and do the things that I've done with Annie, and I have that personal connection to her, I realize what it's going to take for me to get to that level again. And in a way, each time one of us, no matter how good we are, moves on from our number one, we've got a little bit of moment there where we got to get our reputation put back where it belongs a little bit. That might not be entirely true, but in my mind, that's how I hold myself accountable, and that's the way I look at it.
Right. Ralph, we have any more comments come in?
Yeah, Travis with Oak Hills Denali, he said, he was just making a say. He said, we have had several tracks in Maryland where the first thing the hunter asks is, why is your dog on lead? The last tracker I used just cut their dog loose.
Yeah. There's some of that goes down.
There's
hey,
another one that says, what breed of dogs do you each have? I have a Teckle I've been using for the past 3 seasons, but I have a new dog this year. It's a BMA Bavarian.
Okay, so
I run the Teckles.
Yeah, I have
got a new one, a Catahoula, but I haven't. This will be his first season.
So I have Teckles, Catahoula, Blackmouth Cur. Oh,
you name it, you got it.
Yeah, I've got. I personally right now own, I think, 13 dogs. Plus I got 2 German wire hair pointers. Let's see, I have Teckles. I do have a lab. He will track, and I might actually. I think I got permission to start using. He's my duck dog. I got Blackmouth Cur, 1, 2, 3 Catahoulas, 2 German wire hair pointers. I had a dogo, and he's at a new home now. I got another dogo coming from ZBZ Dogos. Yeah, and plus I don't even know what all's out there training. So we got a lot of dogs around here.
If the deer turns its head to the left, he's got a dog. If the deer turns to the right, he's got a dog.
Yeah, pretty much.
I got Annie running number 1 until she tells me she don't want to do it no more, and Tigger's hot on her tail. 1.5 year, Hanoverian Scent Hound. Tigger's from Finland. He's a European dog. And I got Lady, the Bloodhound, in between, who I would put on a track with confidence, but I don't like tracking her. She's hard to read. She'll walk me 100 yards off the trail and turn around and go, oh, by the way, I'm not tracking that deer no more.
I owned a great bloodhound. I've trained a lot of great bloodhounds. I will never own another bloodhound myself.
Yeah,
that's just me personally, and that's something to bring up. You got to have a dog that fits you and your lifestyle and your tracking style.
And what about your environment?
Right. Well, that's where I was going to go with the tracking style. And one of the things with the bloodhound where we live, and especially mine, because he had more black on black back. He wasn't solid black, but he was saddleback, and he would overheat a lot quicker. And that's one reason why I actually gave him away. He just when you're tracking 8, 10, 15 tracks a day, and you got a bloodhound and a blackmouth cur, and your blackmouth cur is still going when the bloodhound has to sit out for 2 days to recoup.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So, yeah, even where I'm at, where it's cooler, I mean, a lady will overheat quite a bit faster. The mouth breathing starts sooner, and for all them reasons, I've learned that that's not the dog I want to track with. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like I said, I've seen some great ones. I've trained some great ones. We had one leave here last month that it had me second guessing getting another one. I mean, it was good.
Yeah. In Lawrenceburg, there's guys running labs. The Yog Terriers are massively popular, and they've got a strong bloodline in there with Sean Butler.
Y'all can keep them.
They're gremlins. Hey, man, and he ain't afraid to tell you, don't buy one unless you know what you're buying.
Oh, yeah.
They will track and do all the cool things you want them to do, but they are something.
They want to kill everything they see.
Absolute gremlins, man. I call them gremlins, and it's hilarious. That they are what they are, but they will find a whole lot of deer and do a whole lot of other cool things.
I will say this. I mean, we train every breed. Right now we've got 2 English cockers here right now. We have one dog. It's half half Cane Corso and half Presa Canario.
Huh.
And it just got here, but it's looking promising. We've got a Bavarian here right now. Trying to think, a lab. You name it. The breed I've probably worked it over the years, and everyone always asks me, what do you think is the best? And like I said, first off, the best is what fits your lifestyle, your tracking style, your environment. But if I had to choose just one dog for tracking, just track for track, it would be a Teckle. They're the easiest to train. They can be challenging with critter breaking. I will say that. It's that terrier blood in them.
Mm-hmm.
But track for track, I don't think there's a better breed out there. You start talking about other aspects, then things change. You start talking about off-lead tracking, maybe certain environments, things might change, but that's going to be my top track for track.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. We got a strong line to wire-haired Teckles too, from the Paul Priest family. He's a tracker down Kentucky, and he's got a proven Teckle, and we've got some trackers working some of those pups right now, and they're coming on strong.
Yeah, they're just, it's a good dog. I do like my cur dogs. I do like my blackmouth curs. I like the Ladner curs. We got a couple of them in for training right now, and I like Catahoulas. I love a lab. We just had a Boykin go home. We trained a lot of Boykins this year that have just really burned up the tracks. I mean, they're pretty good.
We got some powerful wire hair pointers that are really blowing up. That's some of our strongest trackers are German wire hair pointers.
And
they call it the ugly dog division.
Yeah.
Long Spur's ugly dog division. They wear that proud.
Got another. Vicky asked, off season and family life versus hunting season.
Yeah, is there a question there? That's it. Well, she's talking about choosing a dog.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, because you're going to spend more time outside of hunting season with that dog than you are, or outside of tracking than you are tracking.
Quite personally, that's why I have the Hanoverian right now, is known to be a very, very, very good family dog. Yeah. In hopes to being a breeder in the future and a quality breeder. It's something I got to keep working on. I got to figure out me a female. I'm working hard on that. But if I can get there, yes. When it comes to homing dogs, I want them all to go to outdoor homes. But if I can't get them to go to outdoor homes, we'll talk about maybe some rights to breeding, if not neutering and spading, and getting those dogs to go to homes where I know they'll be well taken care of and enjoy the outdoor life. And I can't do that with every breed of dog that I would use for tracking, but I think I can do it with the Hanovers. Yeah. Make sure them puppies have happy homes.
Right.
Yeah.
We got
lots to consider when you really get into it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got any other questions or comments coming through, Ralph?
There's just a lot of comments, but mainly that question about what kind of dog. Everybody's throwing them in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good breeds out there, and I've got my tops,
Yeah, I mean, we can embellish on that a little bit, and I'll just take an example from our last testing day, which was I was testing on a WGT1. I was the judge, and I was testing one of our new trackers, and he was running a Paul Priest Teckle, and it's a young dog, and it approached a rather large log that the track was laid over. And obviously the young Teckle got to the log and identified where the deer crossed it, and then wanted to go all the way around the log. And for stature's sake, I don't know if the Teckle could have got over that log. Well,
mine will.
Well, you know what? In his will in the future. But I also explained to him where he's tracking in these massive obstacles that a whitetail can easily bound and jump over a giant log or brambles, whatever. And that Teckle cannot get over it. But he can. I said, man, reach down and pick that dog up and move on over top that log where he said that deer went and put him down and go.
Exactly. Yeah.
I said, your tracking style's got to be a little bit different because you're running a teckle in the Appalachian Mountains. So pick that dog up and do him a favor. Get him over that log, put his nose back on it, and rock and roll.
Right.
So when you talk about what dogs are you choosing and what breeds we're running, that there's a lot of fun in talking about that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone's going to have their favorites. And, I try to give many options because I work so many different breeds every year, but man, it's just hard to beat a good tackle. It's hard to beat a good lab. It's hard to beat a cur dog. When I say cur dog, I'm talking about Catahoulas, blackmouth curs. I lump them in together. Lacey's, the Catahoula and blackmouth are. I personally, for me, I prefer those over a Lacey, but that's my personal preference.
Yeah.
But,
you track a dog like I'm tracking with. Tigger is an absolute tank. He's 80 pounds of pure muscle right now, and he goes. Now I need to slow him down, and I'll get him slowed down. But that dog at that size with that much power is still going to challenge me. So those are all things that have to be thought about when you're picking your animal. As I get older, the tackle is what makes sense. If I want to track when I'm 60, I don't know if I could stay behind Tigger.
What are you saying?
Hey, I ain't saying nothing, man. Paul Priest taught me a long time ago. I was paying attention. Sean Butler told me straight up with his young terriers, you guys can run them big dogs. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I agree.
I did just see a comment from one just came through from Tommy Jackson. I can't put it on the screen because this thing's freezing on. Was it Tommy? Yeah. What tick prevention do y'all recommend? I know Ralph hit on it in Stockton, but I guess I missed writing that note. My BMC seems to be a magnet. So there's a lot of options out there, but if you want an all-in-one combination, I recommend the Simparica Trio. Because it'll take care of your heartworm prevention, fleas, and ticks.
Is this a pill?
Yeah, it's a chewable. Yes, monthly.
Yeah, that's what our dogs run. That type of.
I will say this: you can save a lot of money to order it from Canada. Canada Vet Med, I think, is what it is.
Pro tip.
Yeah. So there's no prescription required ordering it from them. It's half the price of going through your vet. It's the same product. It normally ships here from Australia. However, it's the same product. Just keep in mind it takes 2 weeks for it to be delivered. But when you can get a 1 year supply for $180, $190 versus, $350 or more going to the vet plus the vet visit, I'm all about saving money.
Kenny, why don't you share that link somewhere later where we could all grab that and share it with our trackers?
Yeah, I'll do that. The other thing is, you have the Brevecto option, which is every 3 months, and you can get that from the same place at half price.
I believe that's what the group was actually talking about, possibly not even a day ago.
Yeah, I just personally, I'm more of a fan of the all-in-one, the Simparica, because it does cover especially here with the mosquitoes being so bad and year-round. But heartworm prevention is crucial, which you could do the ivermectin. A lot of people here does that for the heartworms, but when you can get the Simparica Trio, especially if you only have a couple of dogs, that's the way to go. And then some people here, they run cow tags on the collars.
Mm-hmm.
And I dip mine every week or two during the season in permethrin, concentrate. So my wife has Lyme disease and had it long enough that she can't get rid of it. So I can't bring ticks in. So I have to get rid of ticks.
And you're extra on it.
Oh yeah. So I double.
Any more questions on there?
Yeah.
And as far as people, humans. Me personally, because I go through 2 to 3 cases a year of what I've seen as the best for people is the Repel. It's in the blue bottle, and it's or blue can, and it's an aerosol, and it's for your clothes. The red is for your skin, and I can go all year, and it seems like I'll miss it every once in a while, and I'll get ticks. But when I run that, I absolutely don't have ticks on me. And if I go on 5 tracks, I put it on 5 times. Every time I get out of my stuff, I put it back on, just for the reason I cannot bring ticks home. So I'm extremely thorough. And but that seems, I've tried my wife has bought me every brand known to man, and that seems to be the best to me.
Well, I'm going to take the Florida guy's advice on bug prevention. I ain't even going to speak up.
Yeah, we definitely have a bunch of them.
I'm up here sitting outside right now. It's 8:30. It's probably about 82 degrees maybe, and there's not a bug anywhere.
Yeah, it's I don't have as many in my yard because I have a fogger and I treat it, but outside of that, it's pretty bad. I do have to do it tomorrow. It's past due, but I've seen a few comments come in. Like some people say Next Guard intercept. That's what Vicky was saying. I've used them. I'm a fan of Simparica Trio. It works.
They all work. Just some are going to work longer and be more effective. If you use them all and work your way through them, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I have
the flea
used them
collars
all.
are great. They work fine. My dogs are too rough, and when I start trekking and training, I tear them all up. I don't like the collars for that reason.
Yeah. Seresta collars. A lot of people use those. The
Yeah,
cow
my
tags,
dogs tear them right up.
a lot of people here use cow tags and they work.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, some of them long spur boys might chime in. It's something they talk about. I guess there's some stuff you can buy and like put on your boots even and stuff. I don't, but bugs don't bother me too much. I don't know why.
This is what I use.
There it is. Hey, they should send you some money, Ralph. That's how this works, right?
They take his money.
They should send you a case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, we used to use the Simparica Trio in order from Canada. I believe it was Canada Vet Med. But when you start getting upwards of 20 dogs at 180, 190 a year per dog, you start finding more cost-effective ways. And, so we do have, it was right here. So, it's right there. Like Ralph, I make a permethrin dip. We have that. I got the concentrate right there, actually. Also, heartworm, I treat with ivermectin on my personal dogs.
Monthly. I think we'd all appreciate it if you put up the link to where you do purchase your stuff from.
Yeah, I will do that.
You're getting price on something. I mean, that's just for information like that too. That's a lot of help.
And I will share that. And like I said, I see Michael Beck said Sawyer's, which is permethrin. When you can go to Tractor Supply and buy concentrate, which I will walk over there and grab it, and I'll be right back so I can show you guys.
They got to send him a case now. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's actually really nice out here right now.
Yeah, so here you go. If you want to save money, right here.
There it is.
That's what I buy. That's the concentrate. It dilute down. This thing will last me all year long.
That's awesome. There you go.
And I can't remember how much it is. Maybe $20, something like that.
Yeah.
and you use very, very little of it.
That's what I do to dip the dogs. Do you use that in a concentrate to spray on you?
Yes, I spray it on the clothes and then let them dry. It's basically the same thing as you're buying in Sawyer's with the Sawyer's, and it's literally a fraction of the cost.
Heck of a good tip. Thank you.
And then, like I said, for heartworm, I use ivermectin. It's not injected. Most of the time, we put it on bread and butter, a piece of bread and butter, and the dogs will eat it up. And then, for the fleas and ticks, we do have the cow tags, because, like I said, you start talking, getting up there 15, 20 dogs, it gets expensive, and you start finding other alternatives to reduce costs.
I bet you do.
I don't skimp on feed. We do feed good feed. I mean, I don't buy Purina Pro Plan anymore at $90 a bag, but I do feed Diamond Performance 30/20. Which is $42-$43 a bag, something like that. But I'm still going through $600 worth of dog food a month.
I think a coon was coming down to the pond. Sorry.
So, Vic, someone, I don't see where it's at, but I'm trying to find the comment. Someone said ivermectin will kill a dog if it. Let me see if I can find where she's responding to. You have to really, really overdose the dog on ivermectin to kill it. I mean, go look at the active ingredient in your heartworm preventions.
I mean, it's a heartworm medicine, right?
Right. And yes, some breeds you can't use certain things, but you just, I mean, it's not rocket science. We haven't lost a dog to ivermectin.
Once again, I'll trust the kennel feller. I mean, you're working with a lot of dogs. This ain't something you just started doing yesterday.
No. Oh, here it is. I was told that ivermectin will kill a dog if it gets heartworms. So it depends on how much you give. The key is using it as a prevention. And I do know folks that have treated at home treated heartworms with ivermectin. There is a dosage cycle that you can do. I mean, I'm not advising that. Don't get me wrong.
No, you got anybody that's got working dogs to this level. I mean, you got a vet there you're using. That's truly the right. Yeah, that's right, Kenny. You know how this play. You know how the world can be.
Yeah, and I have two different vets I use, and my vets know that we use ivermectin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not doing something that your vet's telling you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Your dog's being too much to you.
So Corey Griner says here, the vet at the UBT seminar in Campbellton said never give the rattlesnake vaccine to your dog. Can y'all advise? Mine and Ralph's vet in Valdosta, Georgia, who spoke at two of our seminars, he is in the heart of quail plantation country. He sees a lot of quail dogs, and what's around the quail environment and plantations? Rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
And he says it definitely works. He says, and Ralph, you may want to chime in on this too. We talked about it last week, but he said it buys you more time to get to them. It takes
95% success rate if you can get it to him in time.
Yeah, and I think that time was 10 to 12 hours if they had the vaccine.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they only have to use half of the antivenin to treat the dog. And I believe he said it was $900 a vial, and it typically takes 2 to 3 vials.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you really don't need to be carrying it with you. I mean, it's something you should be able to get your dog to the vet and get handled if you got 8 or 9 hours to do it.
Yeah, as long as you get the rattlesnake vaccine, which is $35 a year.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Some vets say it doesn't work, but here's a man who sees it, deals with it all the time. And he's saying it's well worth it. He's not price gouging on it. So you go there, the first one's $35. You go back in 2 to 3 weeks, you get a booster for $35. So your first year is $70. Each year after that is $35. It's one shot a year. Even if it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I will say, I mean, when I start tracking seriously up here, normally we don't deal with snakes that badly because they're starting to settle down. I mean, they're just not out sunning as hard. But on them warm days, yeah, they're out. But like training, I definitely take rattlesnakes into consideration up in the mountains. I was at a den the other day. I didn't take the dogs, but I counted maybe 16 timber rattlers. Yeah, and they were just around the den. I don't know what else was under the rocks. But I did like to have the dogs in that scenario right there would not be fun. Like you almost have to like shut down training up into the big rocks and in the mountains up top in the middle of the summer. You gotta pick where you train. You stay away from them snake areas.
Yeah, it's like I said, some vets, and it's because it's created with Western Diamondbacks. So that's, and I don't know if it makes a difference, but obviously Dr.
All
Graham.
I can do is trust the experts.
Right. I'm going to trust Dr. Graham.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I got a question from Tony Hayes. He says, crazy question. What have you saw with long travel affecting trails? Not making excuses, but trying to rebound from a bad failed UBT2. Does long distance travel, hotel stays, etc. affect dogs? He was like a totally different dog. We've had 2 great one and started testing trails. From the start, he struggled. What's your experience?
I would have to ask more questions to that off the air, but it can affect them. I have seen it affect them. But there's also a lot of variables there.
Yeah. So socializing your dog, I mean, we're not talking about exactly the same thing, but have to be used to my vehicle a lot. They got to used to be they got to be very, very familiar with traveling a lot. So I would suggest that when your dogs are young, put them in the vehicles, get them moving, and spend as much time as you keep them with you, get them out in the public and meet other people, all that stuff. So whenever you're in that situation, it's not affecting your dog so badly. Maybe something a little off, but kind of similar. The gentleman that I was testing in there when we ran your ABTAs again, he had the Teckle. His Teckle was playing all morning long and all early afternoon a lot with these bigger dogs. I mean, all the dogs were having a good time. There was nothing there to be concerned about, but they roughed house. When we got on his track later, early evening, actually it was, I believe, his dog was tired. I mean, like when we first started the track, it wasn't long at all, and he went ahead and laid down. Like he was physically tired, and I saw it, and he agreed. I said, that little dog roughhousing and playing with them big dogs all day long burned him up, and he kept missing a 90 on me. So we didn't pass him, but that affected his dog playing with them other dogs all day long. He needed to keep his dog confined, keep him out of the heat, and do all that stuff. And now he knows.
Oh yeah. And one thing I want to say is, Tony, don't let that discourage you.
No.
The one thing I tell everyone about testing, you have to go into it and look at it as a learning experience. Even if you don't pass, and believe me, I have failed my share and I have passed my share. If you go into it with the mindset that I'm going to take something away from this, I'm going for a learning experience, you you will have a better attitude going into it. You'll have better energy. Your dog will have better energy because it's feeding off of your energy. So, and also after you fail, don't let it eat at you. Just keep grinding, keep going. That's key. I did want to bring something else up though when we're talking about the ticks. I don't know if people knows this. So again, we do our annual shots too that you can buy. You can buy your vaccines like from the feed store or Tractor Supply, and there is one that does treat for a vaccine that includes the Lyme. I'm trying to remember which one it is. I think it's 10 or 10 plus. I think it's 10 plus with lepto and all that. So there's other options out there too that you need to make sure. And if you're going to your vet, your vet will let them know that your dog is in the woods. You do have a working dog, a hunting dog, so you can make sure that you get the proper vaccines. But you do have the option of doing it yourself as well at a feed store.
Yeah, your vet's a big deal. Big deal. You might, I prefer a vet that understands what a working dog is too.
Well, in my area, well, our area, I should say, Ralph, we're a couple hours apart, but there's a lot of people that hunt deer with dogs, and there's a lot of people that hunt hogs with dogs, bear with dogs. So, it's not uncommon to drive by a house in my town and see a kennel with 30, 40 dogs in it. Most of those people can't afford $200 a year treatment on just for flea and tick and heartworm, let alone taking 40 dogs to the vet every year for everything.
Yeah.
So we're just raised
expensive.
in an environment where we learn to treat a lot of ourselves, and our vets are understanding about that, and they'll work with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not cheap. It's a lot of hard work. And boy, when you fall in love with one of them dogs and they're working hard for you, they're important.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably need to start wrapping it up, Ralph. Is there any last minute questions we need to touch on? Or
no, I don't see many.
And I'll go back through when we're done and respond to some of these as well.
Yep. So thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Yeah, good to see you.
You too, Ralph. Yeah. Good talking to you.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to see you next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, give me a holler if you want to talk about something. I like talking tracking anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll try to get over there to Lancaster.
I absolutely. It's on the calendar. The only thing that can stop that happening is work.
What's that?
We'll try not to let that happen. Yeah. I got some testing to lay out this week, actually next few weeks. So I'm going to be in the world pretty hard here the next few weeks, enjoying it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. I appreciate you.
All righty. Thank you.
Bye-bye.